You guys, welcome back to Second Take. It's Vishwa here, and as you guys saw the title, today's video is about the San Antonio Spurs star Demar Derozan. As many of you guys know, Anthony Davis was selected to this year's All-Star game, but was replaced by Devin Booker. Unfortunately for Booker, who is perhaps the biggest All-Star snub of the West, he will not be participating in this year's All-Star game for Team Durant due to a sprained knee that had occurred against the Golden State Warriors. And as for the news report that recently came out, Utah Jazz point guard Mike Conley will be replacing Booker in both the All-Star game for Team Durant and in the three-point contest. Although I am very happy for Mike Conley, as he was a terrific player all throughout his career and is earning his first-time All-Star appearance, it is a bit controversial that he, out of all people, earns the honor rather than a few others like De'Aaron Fox and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and the most deserving of it, Demar Derozan, being a primary name we'll be discussing today. In today's video, I'll be discussing if Demar Derozan is the most disrespected player in the NBA due to a multitude of reasons. I'll first be diving into how good Derozan really was, then examine a question of why he may be the most disrespected player in the NBA. Before we get started, please make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. I promise you will not regret it, and let's get straight into the video. Derozan first spent 9 of his first 12 years with the Toronto Raptors, and boy was he a dominant player. After his rookie season, Derozan would average 17 points a game and then would go on to become the leader of the Toronto Raptors and also a 4-time NBA All-Star. Many also remember him and Kyle Lowry, the point guard of Toronto, and Derozan as a terrific backcourt that assisted Toronto to multiple winning seasons, as the team was a top 3 seed in Derozan's last 3 years, including his final season, which saw Toronto have a 59-29 record, finishing first in the Eastern Conference. To show how good Derozan truly was in his Toronto tenure, he averaged 27 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists, along with Kyle Lowry, who also averaged 22 and 7 himself in their final season. He was also 5th in the league in scoring, had a career high in rebounds per game, true shooting percentage, usage, and a 24 player efficiency rating, and this was all coming off signing a 5-year $139 million deal. Also keep in mind that he had won 5th place vote for the league's MVP award as well. He'd portray himself as one of the NBA's most dynamic scorers, using skill and athleticism while attacking the rim, his mid-range pull-up game and post-up game. His only weaknesses were his poor 3-point shooting percentage and his defense at times. But then of course, 2 seasons after his monster season, Derozan, as you know, would get traded to the San Antonio Spurs along with Jakob Poeltl and a first-round pick for Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green. This was primarily due to the unlucky success Toronto had in the postseason, as they would constantly get eliminated early by LeBron and the Cavs, which caused a need for change. Fortunately for the Raptors, they did win the NBA championship the year after trading Derozan, but Derozan was extremely dejected following the trade. Here I'll be showing you guys a very emotional clip of his reaction to this trade, as well as his thoughts on his tenure with Toronto.
Man, I was really stuck. I was like, I couldn't think for a second, because it just didn't feel real. Like I said, I didn't have no indication like it would be something else. If I knew that, I wouldn't have reacted the way I did. I would have been prepared for it. But it caught me completely off guard. Day one, when I was drafted to the Toronto Raptors, they had the stigma on them. Every guy's leave, nobody want to be here, superstars, nobody want to play in Canada. From day one, my whole mindset and approach to the game, being in Toronto, was I wanted to change that whole narrative to that whole organization. That's why I worked my butt off like I did. That's why I pushed. That's why I repped so hard to get that stigma off it. You know what I mean? And that was another example in my career where I could prove that by not have to meet with nobody else. Get this done within the first 30 minutes of free agency and keep moving, to try to make a statement. That was always my mindset and approach. And, you could tell by the connection I have with the fans, was that. I never thought about elsewhere. I never mentioned elsewhere. I love that place. It's literally my second home.
As you guys can see, this interview with NBA insider Chris Haynes portrayed how Derozan truly felt about the change of team. This interview speaks for itself, as Derozan has laid it out all, especially for the city of Toronto, where the majority of the NBA stars don't prefer as a free agency destination, as it is in Canada rather than the US, and it felt really disrespectful for him to not even be notified that he won't be part of the team's future plans while he was actually getting ready for the upcoming season. Kyle Lowry, who was his former teammate, was more than just a teammate to Derozan, as they were best friends, and it was pretty self-explanatory given that they were Toronto's backcourt for 6 years. In his reaction to Derozan getting traded, Lowry stated, "I felt betrayed because he felt betrayed. That's my guy, that's my best friend." Derozan still currently has a strong relationship with Lowry and other members on the team like Serge Ibaka and Fred VanVleet, and rapper Drake, who is also a huge Raptors fan. I also can't imagine how bad it must have felt for Derozan to not only get traded from his beloved city, but also see the Raptors win the chip with the man he was traded for, Kawhi Leonard, the year after. So as you guys can see, this part of the video represents the segment of Demar Derozan getting disrespected by the Toronto Raptors, a city which he calls a second home because of the fact that the NBA is a business above all. Now we'll get into how he has been disrespected by the NBA themselves. Before getting into how he was disrespected by the NBA, just a quick synopsis on his career so far with the San Antonio Spurs. And upon getting traded to the Spurs, Derozan's stats and his overall play has deteriorated quite a bit. In his first season, he averaged 21-6-6, leading the Spurs to a 48-34 record. He'd put up identical stats the following season, but unfortunately, the Spurs didn't make the playoffs after failing to take advantage of the NBA bubble. Now, before we get into this season, I know it's evident that Derozan has regressed a lot and is no longer the superstar player he once was with Toronto, but that's due to a lot of reasons such as injuries and primarily the legend coach Greg Popovich's use of him. Derozan's playstyle has also heavily changed, and maybe even for the better, as he's no longer the scoring-oriented player that he once was in Toronto, but has transformed into an all-around player due to Coach Pop and more of a facilitator as well, as he went from putting up only 2 to 4 assists a game in Toronto to 6 to 7 a game in San Antonio. This season, surrounded by young talent and guys like DeJounte Murray, who's also having a terrific season, and Keldon Johnson, Derozan currently averages 20 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds. The Spurs are also currently 7th in the competitive Western Conference with an 18-14 record, but at the time of the All-Star selections, they were as high as the 5th seed before losing 2 of their last 4 games. Other teams ahead also were on the rise, and COVID issues also restricted the Spurs from playing more games. The team is also one of the best in limiting turnovers and being effective in creating open shots, and Derozan is the main reason why, as a 7 assists a game are used especially in the drive and kick situation and the pick and pop game with LaMarcus Aldridge, once again due to the mastermind Coach Pop. Now we'll get into how he was disrespected. At first, it was understandable that Derozan did not get selected, as he was more of a team-oriented player this season rather than a man carrying his team, and the stats weren't all that impressive, and others on the team like Devin Booker had a better case of making it. But Mike Conley, I understand that the Jazz are the #1 seed in the West, but Conley has only been averaging 16 points and 6 assists from the field, and the Jazz have still exceeded in his absence. Also, guys like Chris Middleton and Tobias Harris should have made it in the East instead of Nikola Vucevic. If the All-Star game is based on decent stats on a top team, which Conley represents, Derozan on the other hand is the best player on a playoff team, being both the scorer and the playmaker. To me, I am happy for Mike Conley receiving his first All-Star selection, but I have to disagree with the selection because to me, Demar Derozan had a much better case of making it. This marks one time where Derozan was disrespected by the NBA. As for another instance, as many would know, Derozan was shockingly ranked 82nd prior to the season in ESPN's player ranking list. There was obviously many atrocities in this list, but ranking a player like Derozan at 82 was undoubtedly flat out disrespectful, given that this list was actually very important according to many. He was not only ranked below several players that he's easily better than, but also role players who don't even contribute to their respective teams as much as Derozan. To name a few, guys like Lonzo Ball, Tyler Hero, Robert Covington, Davis Bertans, and players who have been flat out garbage this season, like PJ Tucker and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I mean, did the creators of this list just forget that this man averaged 22-6-6 last season, which are generally all-star stats, and he was a 4-time all-star? I don't even need to say much more about this list, as look how Derozan and the Spurs are playing this season. One last thing I'd like to point out about Derozan is his unbelievable loyalty towards his team and his constant work ethic. Like I said earlier, he was planning on being a Raptor for life, and similar to back then, though Derozan may not stay with the Spurs for the rest of his career or for much longer. He has displayed a similar loyalty this past offseason and his overall competitive mindset. DeRozan stated that he wasn't satisfied with how the Spurs ended their last season, not making the playoffs, how he never runs from a challenge, and that the team has so much work to do, which were the reasons why he accepted his final year of his player option rather than leaving for a contending team like the Lakers. And that's going to wrap it up for today's video. To me, Demar Derozan is definitely the most disrespected player in the NBA due to all these reasons. He gave the city of Toronto all he had, which resulted in him getting traded without even being notified. Then the NBA does him dirty by ranking him 82nd in the league, followed by the recent All-Star snub after 2 injury replacements. I personally feel really bad for DeRozan and think that at any point in his career, he should return to Toronto and finish off his career there due to how much love he showed to the team and the love the city showed back to him. I'd also expect him to sign with a contending team the next season, and I firmly believe that he will return to Toronto at some point in the rest of his career. But anyway, comment down below if you believe DeRozan is the most disrespected player in the league and if he should have been an All-Star this year, and how you see the rest of his career panning out. Also, feel free to provide any feedback or comment down below any future ideas for future content. Please make sure to smash that like button if you enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching, and peace.